Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.
Satan has come for the soul of our friend. Whose will she take? You might find out at the end. But it's likely our writers won't get there. But listen to this episode to see how they fare.
William Marshal. Well, I've just been fired from a trebuchet into the sky. Little do they know that I will become my werewolf self and land comfortably in the castle. They are fools, they are. How dare they replay this past of mine? They've tried to kill me a few times now, and each time has failed. How do they think this is going to kill me? I laugh as I fly. I'm quite enjoying the experience, to be honest. I'd never done it before, you see. Sometime in the future, this could be the only way to travel. With a little more luxury, though, perhaps.
Why are you laughing?
Asked the wolf soul. Well, they can't bloody kill me, can they? I told him, confidently.
Why do you think that, then?
He responded. The ability to have a mental conversation with my wolf soul tells you how long I was in the air. At this point, I was reaching the zenith of my arc in my journey. Well, we just become us, don't we? And then we'll be fine, won't we? I laughed again.
All right, but how do we do that when I'm over here and you're over there?
He asked me. Well, there's something, you see. I hadn't considered that.
Do you think a wolf can seriously fly a will or something?
He asked me. This I really had not considered. I could now see over the wall into the castle, and the cobblestone floor of it made me realize that the likelihood was that I was going to go splat. If my wolf soul were not there, I would definitely go splat. I got distracted for a moment, wondering where I got the word splat from. But it seemed to be very appropriate to what sound I would make when I hit the solid, stony nature of the floor. Well, get there and intercept me before I land, then, I said with a little vehemence.
How fast do you bloody think I am?
Replied Fenrir. This was not good news. The flight now was not so much fun, and the thought that this flight would be the rest of my life, which was going to be very short, with a splat at the end of it, it was not good. Well, what the bloody hell am I going to do now, then? I asked the wolf soul. I was now only a few feet from the ground as the wind whistled past my ears at the end of my trajectory. I was going to land, and I was going to land heavy, and I was going to land hard.
Well, I suppose if you look like you're going to hit something really solid, make sure you miss it.
Lucifer. This really shouldn't be that difficult. I had to save an immortal werewolf. I mean, he was very hard to kill anyway. This has been way too much work, and to be honest, looking at Gervais's immortal soul, I'm considering whether all this effort is actually worth it. It would likely be coming my way anyway. I couldn't really see where else it would go. But you have to make sure, I suppose. Once I owned it, then, well, it was mine. No backsies, as the youth of some age of the earth say. I had saved William Marshal now several times from being killed. It was getting a little bit silly and repetitive. This one was an interesting one. They'd launched him with a siege engine at the castle. I know, I should have stopped it before he was flung. But I'd never seen anyone ever flang. Is that the correct verb? And the results looked as though they were going to be entertaining. It wasn't particularly amusing, though. He was just thrown at the castle. One minute, he was bound and held in the bucket thing of the trebuchet. The next thing was the weight dropping and the lever of the machine accelerating, and then he was suddenly tossed at the walls. He was in the bucket on ropes at the end of the arm. I've no idea what its technical name is, so for ease of description, let's just call it a bucket with ropes. He was in that. Then he flew out, being followed by a cloud of, well, it's not a nice thing to say, but a cloud of snot. Sorry, I know, yuck. Never mind. I had sat through the pantomime that was supposedly the entertainment before the flinging. It was not entertaining. The acting was mediocre, to say the least, and the only person not pretending to laugh and smile was the Count himself. He was having a fit of hysterics at every word uttered by the person in the clown outfit. Everyone else was giving the response they knew they should give, but they were faking it. Humans, such easy liars. My little cat, who was my demon secretary in cat shape, sat on my knee as we watched the flinging. "Aren't you supposed to be doing something about the impending landing?" she asked quite nonchalantly. "This one is on him," I pointed at the werewolf soul. "He'll sort it out," I told the cat with the utmost confidence. "And anyway, I've just taken off my boots," I told her as I rubbed my tired feet. I mean, I could stop them feeling tired instantly if I wished, but there's something that contents me when I make my feet ache and then rub them. It's one of the myriad of things that I've learned from humanity. Humans invent so much good stuff: coffee, wine, 1950s cinema, war and genocide. The cat's head turned to the wolf's soul, who was still sitting where he was watching the flight of his friend. Her tail began to twitch, which, after the centuries of us working together, I knew meant that she was a little concerned, slightly stressed, and a tad anxious. I was a little exasperated. It had been a long century. "Oh, for the devil's sake," me that is, for my sake, "what is the matter?" I asked her, trying to enjoy my foot rub. Those two baleful little eyes turned towards me. "Nothing," replied the cat. I rubbed my feet again. It was so good. It was up there with scratching that itch on your wrist. Another humanism I do every now and again. "But," said the cat. "But what?" I snapped. "What is it now?" My usual patience wavering. "No need to be testy," said the cat with an admonishing air. "But that..." It pointed the tip of its sinuous tail at the wolf's soul before she continued. "But if that's supposed to be doing something about this, then why is it still sitting there watching?" she asked. I raised my head to observe the wolf's soul. He certainly was just sitting there. Why was he? Should they not be a werewolf or something? I was confused. I met the cat's eyes. "Oh, damn!" I shouted as I clicked my fingers and disappeared, leaving the little demon cat in mid-air where my knee had been. This was okay. She was a cat after all, and she simply and coolly dropped to her feet amongst my boots and sniggered. I love this job, she told the unlistening evening.
Gervais, what have I done? I had to do it. She was the devil person, the thingy. She was like properly nice to look at and seemed lovely. And then she told me she was the devil thingy. Other names for it, whatever. What else can I do? William is much more better for this world than I, so I did the right thing, did I not? Which was to give it my thingy so she would save him. Didn't take a lot, I just had to agree to give it to her. Didn't feel no different after. I mean, I didn't sign a thingy with my own blood or thing. I didn't even shake her hand or nothing. I just said she could have it if she wanted it, thingy. So I'm damned. I'm going to hell. I don't even know when. Will it be once she saved him, or will it be when I was deaded? These are the things that I should have asked before the agreeing thingy. Excuse me. I'm sitting in the chair. I'm sitting in the chapel of my Lord the Tankerville. I asked the priest kindly to leave me in peace for a moment with the god thingy, Actually, I told him to fuck off, or I would stick the sharp end of my sword in his ear. He seemed quite upset for some reason, but bless him. No, not bless him. Fuck him. He's not going to hell, is he? At least, well, I suppose at least I'll be warned there. Gervais! Oh, fuck. It's that Percy chap. Don't really need to see that cut. Don't really need to see that cunt. Don't really need to see that chap. Why is he bothering me now? Can he not leave me to wallow in my misery and self-pity for a while? I didn't speak to him. I just raised my hand with a cup in it. It sloshed beautiful red wine down my arm, which was a waste. I tried to lick it from my elbow as it ran, but did you know that it's well for me? It is impossible to lick your elbow. Who knew that? I didn't. I heard Percy walk down between the benches to join me, unwanted in front of the pulpit. I sat slumped on my pew. I heard an intake of breath. I had to admit what he saw was, well, a mess. He looked at me after taking in the whole scene. Gervais! I tried somewhat to meet his eyes, but lifting my chin from my chest was quite difficult for some reason. I must have been very tired. Percy sighed again and swept the 10 or so empty bottles from the pew and plunked himself beside me. What you want? I asked the foppish man. I had managed to move my eyes, not my head, but just my eyes, so that I could see the man a little. It was enough. He was his usual well dressed self, chinless, and with his hairline beating a hasty retreat. But he was definitely well dressed. I was worried, said Percy. No need, Percy, I told him. It's fine, Perky. I was just communing, praying with him there. I pointed a wobbly finger at the cross on the table. Percy was quiet, which, to be honest, isn't normal. What's the matter, Gervais? He asked. I could actually hear the genuine concern in his voice, none of our usual witty banter. I had now managed to turn towards him after a few attempts and looked him in the eye. He met my gaze. His face showed care and concern. He reached and held my shoulder. I could feel the comforting grasp of his hand. I mean, Gervais, this. He swept his hand over the wreckage of my 2 hours of drinking. Bottles both broken and whole and were scattered across the stone floor. Well, Father Crilly was rather worried about you. Well, actually, he is terrified of you. Often the same thing concerning you, worry and terror I often find. He said. I couldn't hold his eyes. I just could not. They just wouldn't stay there. I want to tell you something, but you will not believe me, I drunkenly gabbled. You will say that I am lost in my drunkenness and that it can't be true when I tell you, I told him, looking back at those rheumy eyes and offering up one smile. He looked at me and smiled, a reassuring smile in return. You do not lie, Gervais. I would believe you whatever you said. Speak, brother, he said, shaking me slightly. I looked down. This was hard. How do I tell him this? He would never. He would never believe me. It just took time to gather myself, but he didn't rush me. He just squeezed my shoulder. I'm here for you, Gervais. I really am. I am your friend. I cast the cup from my hand, but where it landed I did not care. I saw Percy watch it fly and fall. I have done something very bad, but ultimately, I told him. He nodded as I paused. He could see I was having a lot of difficulty continuing with my words. Go on, brother, Percy said. I don't know how to say it. I could not hold his eyes, and I was embarrassed as those water-filled eyes let loose a tear. You are the bravest man I know, Gervais. You are the most gentlemanly knight I know. Please continue. I'm here to share your woe. I want to know. I had wiped the first tear as it made its journey into my beard. Now they flowed, and I let them without care. This man was truly a friend. It's a very rare thing. I knew I could share anything with him. I had to save William, I said. What? Percy said. He was confused. I had to save him. He's the best of us. Percy's lip curled at this. His eyes left mine for a moment, and I could see that he was giving this due consideration. It only took a moment before he looked at me again and smirked. Yes, you're very right, he told me with a hint of amusement. He is important in this world, Percy, I told him. Again, he took a moment of consideration as he digested this statement, and then he laughed, briefly again. Yes, he is the most worthy knight I know, but I hasten to add without us. No, that is not true. This time his eyes fell from mine as his face showed regret. Without you, he would not be the man, the beast or whatever he has become, he told me with sadness. He looked back at me. This time my hand rose and rasped his shoulder with a reassurance. Not so, Percy. We would all be nowhere without you, but I'm afraid William is key to the future. He nodded. I had to save him, I said with dread, but it was at great personal cost, I continued. Percy looked confused. How so? He asked. I paused and gathered myself. I couldn't hold those eyes, so I sat back on the bench searching for a bottle with some content. Percy leaned forward and held the searching hand, pulling it until I looked back at him. How so? He repeated. I need a drink, Percy. How so? Percy asked again. Because I'm thirsty, I ridiculously told him. He smiled and dismissed the statement as silly. Tell me what has happened, damn you, Gervais. I laughed at this. A little too hard. Damn me. He shook his head in slight anger, and I steeled myself for... The devil came to me on the battlement and told me for the promise of my immortal soul that she would get William through this day and bring him back to us. I blurted out. I looked away, expecting laughter, and for him to tease me. There was none. There was just silence. A time passed, a silent time full of mental noise as he processed what I had just told him. Eventually, I looked back at him. I could see the horror. You believe me? I asked, a little disbelieving myself. Percy sat back now, his hands going to his thinning hair on his head. I could see the pain in him. Percy! Fuck, Gervais! Fuck, Gervais! He suddenly expelled as he bent forward, burying his head in his hands. Fuck! And then he started laughing uncontrollably. I was a little vexed by this outcome, but the laughter was infectious, and I fell into it. We both just couldn't stop, and the tears we shed now were not of fear, sadness, or concern, but of the ridiculous nature of the idea. Managing a brief moment of control, he reached for a bottle and brought it to his trembling lips and swallowed a goodly draught or six. What do you think I do, Percy? I asked him a genuine request. He finished his gulping drink and wiped his mouth with his sleeve before looking at me and smiling. Again, our eyes clashed. Eventually, after a period of awkward energy between us, he shrugged and held the remnant of the bottles to me. Well, Gervais, there's nothing for it, my friend, he said, slapping me on the back with a jovial expression. Gervais, we drink.
Lucifer. There's the moment when you pass through space and time, such as I had done, where you feel a little discombobulated. In my case, I don't think this has anything to do with me, but to do with space and time, not liking the rules broken. Humans created mathematics, physics, and logic to explain the universe. It works reasonably well most of the time, but it has yet to explain religion, magic, spirituality, and the esoteric. I love the fact that if scientists can't explain something, they just ignore it. I think this is actually part of human education. If you can't explain it with evidence, then, well, it's not real. Funny and sad, but bless them. Yet deep inside, they all want something to believe in. A comfort that when they die, it's not just a void of non-existence. This means that others can do things that the universe does not like. So the universe, makes things difficult and weird for the first few moments of breaking those rules, as it attempts to apply mathematics, physics, and logic to make sense of what has just happened. I now stood in the courtyard a few moments before the firing of the trebuchet and William's launch into the courtyard. The travelling through time was the easy bit. All I had to do now was work out how to stop him from going splat. Strange word, that. I'd never heard of it or used it before, but it did suit the idea of a body hitting the cobblestones. The demon Trudeur, my little cat secretary, appeared at my ankles and started to weave herself through them, rubbing her lithe little body against them as she purred. "What are you gonna do, boss?" she asked. I must admit I had no idea. A circus net, maybe? A demon catcher? Splat went the body of Will as he smashed into the cobbles. "Damn it!" I yelled. I clicked my fingers and flew back a few moments in time, this time giving myself a little longer. I stood and thought, holding my hand to my chin. I was actually slightly jogging on the spot with a little too much splat. I clicked my fingers again and went back. I clicked them again and stopped time. Just myself and the little cat moved. Okay, I told her. I could feel the smugness radiate from the little black beast. "What do you think I should do?" I asked her. The cat walked a little distance away from me and turned, sitting whilst meeting my gaze. "Why don't you put the wolf's soul where Will is so they can, do the thing that they do? The werewolf will probably survive the fall," she said. I considered this idea. Well, it was the only way, I suppose. I found the wolf's soul with my mind and clicked my fingers for a third time. It was now with William in the air. This would have to do. I started time. Not splat. The werewolf landed perfectly from the air in a elongated run as it reduced the speed it had been given from its launch. That run was directly at me, and it managed a bit of a skittering stop. The monster was out of breath. It was an impressive thing to see. Massive and black with burning amber eyes. It put most of my demon brethren to shame before it became the man, and the wolf's soul separated once more. The little cat raised a sarcastic, underwhelmed little "yay" as she cleaned a paw. The man, to my surprise, looked at me. He shouldn't be able to do that, should he? I should be the invisible to him. He looked me up and down.
"Who the hell are you?"
he asked. The wolf's soul laughed. He knew who I was. We had crossed paths before. And I suppose
"Who the hell?"
was astonishingly appropriate. I was a little taken aback by all of this, so I took a moment to think of a reply. It was a struggle to talk. At this distance, the glow of William's goodness actually blinded me. I had to use a hand to shade my eyes. Gervais's sacrifice made sense now. The word sacrifice stood out to me in that sentence. I didn't know why at this point.
"William, I'd like to introduce you to her ladyship. This, William, is the devil, Beelzebub, Lord of Flies, Satan,"
Fenrir told William. I looked at the soul with a little distaste. I prefer Lucifer myself. But yes, those are my other names, I told the man, smiling at him.
"And I have to say, if she's here, that means something terrible's happened or is gonna happen. It's really always the case with her, I'm afraid,"
the wolf told the man. I really wanted to stick my tongue out at the wolf to show my displeasure, but thought better of it for professionality's sake. William briefly looked at him. He nodded and then looked back at me. He fell back into some powerful stance, only made a bit silly because of his nakedness.
"Satan! I objurgate you and send you back to hell,"
he announced loudly. My secretary, who had cleaned both her forepaws by now, looked up at the man. She was obviously finding this interesting and slightly amusing. No, do not cast me back into the pit from which I came," I yelled, doing a great act of quailing back from him. Once the point was made that I was going nowhere, I laughed at the naked knight before taking a bow.
"Satan! I objurgate you, and I send you back to hell, I do,"
he repeated, but this time with less volition. I smiled again and looked myself up and down. "Not today, I'm afraid," I told him with resignation. The knight, a little crestfallen, stood from his dramatic pose into a pose of, well, unposiness. He just stood. "I'm sorry that did not work, but nice try," I told him. Honestly, it was very impressive, the pose, and I could genuinely feel your intention, but, well, as you see, it doesn't really work all that exorcism stuff. Not on me, that is. Demons, maybe? I said, looking at the little green-eyed demon who nodded her head for clarification. You see, that would have worked on a demon, but you see, I'm a little bit more... Yes, that's the best way to say it. I am more, I told the man, whose mouth hung open in disbelief.
So, tell me, what is it you want from me for this day's work, woman?
The knight asked. The invisible wolf's soul sucked his teeth at this. It was an impressive sound due to all the teeth, and a sound that told William that he may have asked the wrong thing. I want nothing from you, I told him.
But you are the devil. The scriptures say you always strike a bargain. A bargain that is usually based upon a man's soul.
William said. I do take women's souls as well, you know. I started, and then I had to remember the century I was in. Anyway, I don't want your soul. Another will pay the debt for today. William looked confused. He paused and looked at the wolf soul next to him. Who, wolf, shrugged.
You have a soul?
The man asked. Yes, the deal is done, all paid up front. Great interaction. Not normally as easily given, to be honest.
By whom?
William asked. Your friend Gervais paid the price, I told him. William's face fell, as did his posture.
Gervais?
I think this was a question, so I answered. Yes.
Damn that man,
was the response. I nodded. Yes, exactly.
I never know really what to say on this. Yeah? Oh, we're on. Okay. Hi, this is episode 216 of the podcast. We're still in medieval times. We've got William Marshal and his pals doing things in time, and werewolves and evil sorcerers and all that kind of stuff. It's going pretty well. Percy sung a song at the start, so you might want to go past that if you want. In the description, there's loads of things that you can go and do. You can join us on our Lunatics Fringe with social media like the X and Insta and Blue Sky, and on Facebook we have a private group if you want to go there. There's quite a lot of chat and good stuff goes on there. If you want to buy a t-shirt, Odin Apparel link in the description. If you want to go and buy some really good books and get some really good horror, then you go across to Grendel Press, who's our partner. Just loads of good things in the description. There's also my books and Greg's books and all sorts of stuff down there. So if you fancy doing that, and you can also rate us and follow us and do all those lovely things if you're lovely and all that. So there you go. So I didn't know what to say in this. Yeah, okay, I'll stop now. All right, okay, cheers.
Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.